Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hyderabad debating community welcomes you all to yet another interesting debate. The motion for today's debate is living together before marriage is appropriate for current times. The motion for the debate is living together before marriage is appropriate for current times. Now, I'll be letting you know the rules of the debate. First, once the motion is announced, all the judges have to vote for or against the motion. We have already given the voting link to all the judges, and I hereby confirm that all the judges have voted based on their opinion, and I have received all their votes. Thank you so much, all the judges, for voting. Now, after the I'll flip a coin to decide which team is going to be a proposition team, or the team which is going to talk for the motion, and which team is going to be the opposition team, or the team which is going to talk against the motion. After that, we will decide which team is the proposition and opposition. I mean, they will rename themselves. And coming to the format of the debate, we have 3 rounds. The first round is called as the introduction round. The second round is called as the interjection round. The third round is called as the conclusion round. And these are the timing guidelines. For the introduction round, we allow 2 speakers, one from the proposition team first, second, one from the opposition, and again, the second speaker from the proposition, and again, the second speaker from the opposition. Both the debaters from each team has 2.5 minutes of time to speak for or against the motion. They can introduce about their opinion. Next, after the first round, we will take a 5 minutes of study. In this breakout, we will send all the debaters of both the teams to the breakout area for 5 minutes, where they can discuss the strategy about the next round. And coming to the interjection round, again, we are allowing all the 3 members from each team to speak for or against the motion. But in this round, each speaker or each debater has 3 minutes of time to speak for or against the motion. After the interjection round, we are giving 3 minutes of strategic break for all the debaters to go to the breakout area and discuss the strategy for the final round, which is the conclusion round. Unlike the first 2 rounds, introduction and interjection round, we are allowing only one speaker to conclude their proposition or opposition statements. Speaker has 3.5 minutes or 3.5 minutes of time to conclude their proposition or opposition statements. After the entire debate is done, we will allow the audience to ask questions to either of the teams, and audience can ask a maximum of 2 questions per team. More than 2 questions is not allowed. After the question and answer section, we will have the fact checker report, where the fact checker will give his or her report based on the facts and figures that are being quoted during the debate. And after that, I'll again reiterate the timing thing. In the first round, after the first minute, timer will show the green card. Timer will not share the screen. Rather, timer will keep the cards in the virtual background. I request all the debaters to pin the timer on your screen. And at the end of 1.5 minutes, timer will show the yellow screen. And at the end of 2.5 minutes, you will be force muted. There is no red card. You will be force muted at 2.5 minutes. And in the second round, which is the interjection round, at the end of 1 minute, you will be shown green card. At the end of 2 minutes, you will be shown yellow card. And at the end of 3 minutes, you will be force muted. Post that, you will not be able to speak. And in the conclusion round, which is the third round, at the end of first minute, timer will show the green card. At the end of second minute, timer will show the yellow card. And at the end of 3.5 minutes, timer will be force muting you. Once the entire thing is done, we will ask the judges to again vote for or against the motion. Based on the debate, based on the question and answer session, and based on the fact checker report, the judges will be again voting for or against the debate. And based on the swing in the voting, or the difference between the opinion from the pre-debate poll and post-debate poll, we will be calculating the results. The team which is able to make the judges incline towards their proposition statements or opposition statements is going to be the winner of the debate. If there is no change in the swing, or if there is no swing, then there is a neutral result. Now I'm going ahead with the toss. Now I am using the Google add-on Flip a Coin for the toss. So we have two teams, and I request the captains of both the teams, or the leaders of both the teams, to come forward and let us know who is going to call for the toss. Okay, I can see Vikrant raising his hand. Okay, Vikrant, will you go for the toss?
Yeah, hi Sanad.
Yeah, okay. So before I ask you to choose between heads and tails, the person who wins the toss will be able to decide which team is going to be the proposition team and which team is going to be the opposition team. The captain who loses the toss will get a chance to choose whether they will go first or second in the speaking order. Hope you understood, right?
Okay.
So now
we get to decide the both of them, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So now I'll show a demo of Flip a Coin. Once I click the flip, it will show whether it is heads or tails. Now you choose what is your choice. Heads.
I'd go with heads.
We'll go with heads. Wonderful. So you won the toss. Congratulations. So now you decide whether you are the proposition team or opposition team.
Yeah, we'll be for the motion, and we'll be going second.
Great. I request you and your team members to rename yourself accordingly. Now I request the captain of the second team to come forward and unmute yourself.
Yes, sorry.
Okay. Now can you please let us know whether you will be going first or second in the speaking order?
We would love to go second.
Okay, great. So it's the normal order. The proposition team will start speaking first, and the opposition team will start speaking second. Now we will start the debate. I request the Zoom master to keep the first member from the proposition team, Pawan Reddy, onto the screen. Yes, we have Pawan.
Thank you so much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, and especially our honorable judges, give a quick reaction if you ever want to get married. And if you are already married, then you are lucky. Thank you so much. Well, in that case, if you all, if you ever want to get married, in that case, you all should definitely try living together before marriage. Let me tell you why. The first reason being, living together can actually provide a trial run for marriage. You get to learn more about your partner before you commit to marriage, just like their habits and expectations. You can also know how well you both cope together in sharing responsibilities emotionally and especially financially. So that is one reason. And the second reason being, actually, in fact, living relationships are not a new concept anymore. Many countries have made a change in their laws according to situations that arise in living relationships. It is a general expectation that eventually living relationships will turn into marriage. And thinking so is not generally wrong. In fact, many relationships do turn into marriage. And if they don't, it is very easier. Like, it is easier to walk away from a failed relationship than a failed marriage, right? So that is the second reason. The third reason being, according to the Washington Post, once the relationship passes the 1 year marker, statistics have shown that the breakups have actually decreased. In fact, the 5 year marker for unmarried couple has a breakup rate is as low as just 20%. Do you believe it or not? And the second reason being, the other statistics shows that unmarried couple who have been together for 20 years have just 10% as its breakup rate. So that is the wonderful statistic that shows how important it is to live together just before the marriage. And the final reason is that the financial aspect of it. Sharing the financial burdens is much easier with two of you in a household. Rents and utilities are halved between the two partners. Also, just remember the money that you spent on those lavish dates and the fares you to meet each other. Scary, right? Those things will actually be reduced to minimal. So if you live together. So my dear friends, trust me, in the age where the people are changing their partner just like mobile, living together before marriage and getting to know each other in all aspects is a pristine way of finding that person, your person. Over to you, moderator.
Thank you so much, Pavan. Now I request a team member from opposition one, Mario, to unmute yourself.
Oh, you're that. Guess what? Be very quiet. I've got this latest new speed dating app here, and somebody is just checking me up. Wait, I swiped right, which means I like her. No, I swiped left. That lady swiped left on me. What does she think of herself? You know what? I have options. This is what has happened to us today. Swipe left, swipe right. We live, my friends, today in a world of unlimited opportunities and unlimited options. And my problem is with the latter. In fact, the latest poll done by Mint and the YouGov panel showed that in today's world, 20% of Generation X, Generation Yers do not intend to get married. Do you know why? Options. Herein lies the problem. And the fact that we have gamified everything today in society, right? From stock market investing to leaving jobs, right? If there's an app for it, if I can swipe it, let's get it done. It's so easy. Now, the opposition will, in their true sense, state that living relationships are a good thing because it gives people options. There's that word again I told you about, options. So what happens generally if I get into a living relationship? And if things start going south, oh, I don't like you talking to me like that. Oh, there's not enough pepper in this chicken. Oh, I tell you what I do. I have options. Is that what we become now? Hey, what happened to the good old days when our parents grew up, or some of you here grew up, where when you get into a problem, you slog it out. You don't swipe it away. Where are those days? Ladies and gentlemen, today the institution of marriage is coming under severe attack by this institution called live-in relationships. And it's time we draw a clear red line on the sand. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. Now I request the Zoom master to spotlight a second member from proposition team. Padma, can you please speak something?
Yeah, are you able to hear me fine?
Yes, you're clearly audible and visible. Please go ahead if you can see the timer screen.
Yes. So, namaste to everybody. Time is long past when two people who hardly knew each other get into wedlock and stay chained to each other like slaves for the rest of their lives, whether they like it or not. Millions are such couples who tolerate each other and put up the pretense that all is well throughout their life. And they go through their whole life in misery and bitterness. It is not options. It is a basic right for a human being to choose whom he or she wants to spend time with, and to decide when the pleasure of spending time with that person has come to an end. It is a right. It is not options. Live-in relationships make sure that a person lives with someone because they want to, not because they have to. It is the most mature way of togetherness, unhindered by societal or community expectations. And if and when the live-in couple decide that they want to spend the rest of their life together, they can invest in growing the family and building joint assets. There was a time in the past when there were no support systems for old age care, and the couple had to depend on each other in old age. No longer. Now we have excellent old age homes and care centers which focus on giving fantastic care to the aged. Acrimonious divorces create a lot of trauma for children. No wonder our country figures so low on the global ranking of happiness index. Look at Scandinavian countries. For several decades, they've had live-in relationships and their happiness index is at the top.
Moderator, you are mute.
Thank you, Padma. Yeah, the time is up. Thank you. Now I request the Zoom master to please spotlight second debater from the opposition team.
On May 12, 2021, I'm talking about 2021. Reiterate date is 12 May. The Punjab and Haryana High Court dismissed a pillar protection filed by a young living relationship couple. I repeat, young living relationship couple. The girl is 18 years old. The boy was 21-year-old, claiming the protection of life and liberty from the relatives of the girl. And the law of the land states, and I quote, the bench headed by Justice Kastrapal observed that if protection is given to the runaway couples in a live-in relationship, then the social fabric of our society would get disturbed. Ladies and gentlemen, the word used over here is the social fabric of our society would be disturbed. Point one, noted. Point two, if you still believe that what the court said is wrong, I would like to bring to the notice that how judiciary give you Article 21, at the same time, it distances you away from the justice. Because in every other relationship, live-in is no sense in criminalizing and demonizing women in our case. For example, Apex Court states, and I quote yet again, that unlike within a marriage, if a girl gets pregnant in the live-in relationship, the natural guardian of the child is a mother. So it's the responsibility of a girl to not get pregnant while staying in a live-in relationship. And the court says, if you're in a long-term live-in relationship, it is considered to be a marriage. Perfect. This is the hegemony which will be put forward to you if you are in a live-in relationship. But is that enough? Hold on, there are many more. I will get back to you to another point. At the same time, when we are talking about live-in relationship, have we looked toward the other impacts of it? Have we ever talked about, isn't the easy way out? Easy way out how? Because now that our society doesn't accept much of that, you are usually end up being just one person. When there is a dispute in family, families come together to resolve it. But when you are in live-in, you are on your own. So where the onus lies on? The two people who are in a trouble, and the easy way out is in the relationship. Have you ever thought about if a child took birth in that relationship, what will happen to him if the parents move out after that? Think about the research says that the kids lost respect in the relationship. He believed in breaking all the rules.
Thank you, Rishi. Thank you, timer. Now that we are done with the first round, which is the introduction round, I request the Zoom master to send both the teams to the breakout area for the first break of 5 minutes.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the opportunity, and also thank you, the opposition on our team, for presenting your ideologies. Now, I'll talk a little bit in detail about the happiness index and the societal limitation that the other team has put into the picture. Well, whenever let's imagine a date, or be it the one in the arranged marriage, or be it the one in the love marriage, you won't select the first girl or boy that you meet. You try to keep your options open, you try to browse stuff and then get to know their interest, and then later give a commitment. So this is a similar thing that happens in a live-in relationship. I don't usually understand the hype as to why it is called overrated and why it's called eroding our culture as such. In fact, let's look, the end goal of any marriage or the institution of marriage is to make sure that the couple is happy at the end of the day. When we talk about the happiness index in the relationship, a live-in relationship is like a marriage without all the legalities and the responsibilities. You get to know your partner better, understand the other at a much more deeper level. Sometimes couples opt for live-in relationship before they can get married to experience what it's like before you take it a step further. And probably the other thing being they do not want to take that risk to be in a messy divorce battle if should the relationship get breakdown. I'd say even from the context of the kids, it will also be beneficial for them because a messy divorce is always going to leave a bad impression for the kids. Now, second thing is let's talk about the social stigma. In India, people don't really have the right to reject their partner. Even one wants a divorce from his or her partner, if one does not agree, it's very hard to get a divorce in the court. Let's consider the cruel aspect of it is most of the sessions in the court are still in pending, especially with respect to the divorce cases. And if you want to get a divorce, you have to wait for around 6 or 8 months. Now, let's talk about the progression of views. There's no doubt Asian and specifically Indian cultures that live-in relationship is viewed differently now than it did 50 years ago. And also, cohabitation is on the rise. This rise may reflect changes in the stigma towards premarital sex, delays in the age of the marriage, and the high housing expenses that make cohabitation a very good financial decision. And I'll just close out with this one point. According to Washington Post, the longer couples waited to make a first serious commitment, the better the chances are for marital success. So at the end of the day, if you want to live happy, make sure that you explore your options, make sure that you really get to know the other person and have a taste of how marriage would feel like before actually committing yourself to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vikrant. Now we request Zoom Master to please spotlight Lahari onto the screen, please. Yeah.
Yes. Firstly, thank you, the team, proposing team, for very fairly pointing out how the legal system in India is. So now just let us take a step back. So as our team has mentioned, that living relationship is nothing but two people doing everything just without the legal aspects, but it is a marriage in a sense. Okay, so if we are married and then we go for a legal issue, it is taking some years, right? What if we are not married and then we get into a legal issue? Do we even have certain policies to work on this? No. And our proposition team has clearly mentioned on how the Western countries are providing some support for the people who are living together. So here is the point. We are not like Western countries. Our society is not like that. We have many things to talk. Like, we do not talk about sex. We do not talk about money. We do not talk about mental health. It is still a stigma. And we expect two small kids, like 18, 19 kids, to get into a relationship. And then they realize about these things. I don't say living is wrong, but I would say living is appropriate when you have a society that can support you when things go wrong. This is like an unplanned battleground. You are sending your kids into a relationship where they don't know what to expect, how people are going to treat them on the street. Do you know how difficult it is for people to get a house if they are in a living relationship? The first question the owners ask, are you married? Are you family? No, living relationship is not considered as family until and unless you are married. That's the point. It is good, but it is not a viable option. And as one of my team member has said, this always increases the gamification point. We have so many options. We do not sit and think about, okay, let us solve. No, we are going to see, no, if this doesn't work out, I can always find a better choice. That's not good. Now, when we talk about the marriage system that we have in place, our parents, both boys and girls parents, they take a lot of time in understanding both the family aspects, how the guy is, how the girl is, are they compatible? They take enough necessary measures to put these two people into a marriage. And when something goes wrong, there is always these people behind you to support you. But that doesn't happen if you are in a living relationship without your family support, without your friends support, and importantly, without your legal support. This is not going to work out if you yourself doesn't realize it. And also the amount of mental trauma that a person gets into if another person whom they are living with creates an emotional dependency on them. This is one of the
Thank you, Lahari. Now we will move to the proposal team member 2, Pavan.
Okay, thank you so much, moderator. I don't know why the opposition team is so scared of having unlimited options. Unlimited options, my dear friends, are actually good if you know how to select the right option for you. And the irony is, in order to help you with the select the right option, live-in relationship is the only way. Let me tell you why. Nowadays, people are getting married after barely knowing each other 1.5 months, and immediately after getting married, they are posting their wedding images on the social media saying you are my soulmate, you are my love for life, and all those things, just barely knowing each other for 1.5 months. So will the story end by then? No. Look at the bigger picture. What if they have conflicts? What if they have conflicts of interest after probably in the long term? So then they will not get resolved. Then all the legal aspects that you guys talked about, then that will be coming to the picture. So in that scenario, live-in relationship is the only way. So if you have multiple options, which one to choose? Probably if you select the right best option, if you spend some right good amount of time with your partner, then you will get to know whether you can actually take that relationship to the next level or not. If you cannot, it is easier, just like we mentioned, it is easier to walk away in a failed relationship rather than in a failed marriage. So a live-in relationship is the only way if you have that trauma of having unlimited option, my dear friend. So just realize that point. And the second point that one of the opposition team mentioned is we don't get houses. There are many legal aspects that we have if you are in a live-in relationship. So just let me remind you one point. So even 2 or 3 decades back, even we did not have proper laws when you really want to get love marriages or when you have any other aspects. So even in the last decade, we did not have the proper law. So encouraging the live-in relationship. Even in India, slowly we are getting legalized the live-in relationship under the Article 21. So slowly the things are getting better. Even the government is starting realizing the better improvement of having living relationships. So if you cannot think the bigger picture, I don't think you are doing a good job. So you are definitely doing a wrong job in that. So I humbly request all the opposition team to just look at the bigger picture to understand better the importance of the living relationships. So getting bogged down by such impractical responsibilities when you are in a marriage, living relationships are not having all those things, any such drawbacks. Since the relationship is devoid of social customs, responsibilities are based on needs rather than conventions and are divided equally between the partners. The freedom that living relationship or it brings to the couple is very rarely offered by marriages. So I humbly request all the opposition team to just look at the bigger pictures and utilize the option to select the right candidate for you. Over to you, the moderator.
Thank you, Pavan. I request the Zoom master to bring second debater from the opposition team onto the screen.
Thank you. My fellow friends, the bigger picture is that you do not play with human emotions like you play with options and apps. That, my friends, is the real bigger picture. In fact, one of your team members said that hundreds of families in India are living in pain, are forced to endure trauma, living with each other, looking at each other. Where are the facts for that? Can we please see the facts? I would really be interested how you gathered these facts, because it is said that hundreds of families are living together. Now, I understand we have divorce statistics, we have family statistics. How have we got the statistics of families who are living together by nature of some force and want to break? Is this facts, or is this another Arnab Goswami soundbite? Please state if it is, right? And the other thing is, they don't need to live in pain. They can leave. But here's the thing, right? They slog it out. They live together. That's called sacrifices. In families, you make sacrifices. And it's because they make sacrifices, you and I can sit on this call today and debate the sacrifices they made. Another one of my contestants said that, made this comparison with India and Sweden, a land where there's 6 6 months of darkness and 6 months of light. Just look at the disparaging difference there. I'd like you also to remind you that in Scandinavia, they have a very interesting tax structure. 40% income tax on Norway, 52% income tax on Sweden, and then if you don't work, you get unemployment benefits. 80% for the first 100 days you don't have work. 70% of the if I had these options, I won't work. In fact, my happiness index will be me. Why will I have to work? Why will I have to argue? I live happily with who I've. Another thing is this happiness index. What causes people to be happy? Is it the government policy? Is it actually the interaction between them and their partners? That's something we need to clearly decipher, because I feel that the arguments made against marriage are due to a lot of other things which may not be actually because of marriage, right? So we don't really slip something in just because it seems like a nice thing to fit in. This is something we really need to think about. Oh, and to stop it, another friend of mine said, when we are all old, we can happily go to old age homes. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think old age homes distinguish between people who are married and not married. And why do I know this? Because I plan on checking into an old age home a few decades or so before I finally go. And I hope to see some of you there. All right, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. Now I request the Zoom master to please spotlight third member from the proposition team.
Thank you very much. We had a member of the opposition also say that live-in relationships are good, but they are not viable. Why are you running scared of something which is good? If it is not viable, make it viable. That is a better stance. And we had one more person saying option, option, option. All I'm saying is that don't confuse between a Tinder and a live-in relationship. It's in Tinder that you keep swiping right. In live-in relationship, you don't swipe right. You just live together happily, right? Just bringing in statistics about tax percentage in Scandinavia, etc. I really am trying to understand why those statistics matter at all. If the tax rate is high and if they provide social security safety net, that's a great thing, but it's in no way relevant to this argument. This is my problem. Then there was a mention that girl gets pregnant in a live-in relationship, and as a mother, she will be responsible for the kid. Obviously, the girl takes the decision to bring the kid into the world. It's her option. It is her decision. And when she does that, she does it out of her own free will. You don't want to take away her right to motherhood just because it was a live-in relationship. We also heard kids break all the rules when they see live-in partner. What data is that? In fact, kids misbehave more when they see acrimonious married partners fighting with each other every day. Live-in relationships have a lot more love between the partners. So kids are more likely to develop a very good personality when they are with the live-in parents. You also said something about, it's not right for our society. It is criminal, demonizing, all kinds of words which are scaremongering really. So who is the Arnab Goswami here? I would say that you are conditioned by religious fundamentalists and some old world society to say that we will control how you will live. We will control how you will interact with each other. Break free. Use your individual thinking capability. Choose a partner that you can love. Live with that partner because you want to. Don't get guided by religious leaders. They are trying to control you. They are just trying to make sure that they take away your rights and make you puppets. We don't want to live like that. We want to live like decent, well-thinking individuals who are perfectly capable of taking decisions that we believe is right for us. And live-in relationship provides that unequivocally. This is my proposition. Thank you very much. Back to the moderator.
Thank you, Padma. I request the Zoom master to please keep opposition 3 member Rishi. Okay.
I would have said childish with the facts and the way you have lied bluntly on a live streaming. Let me just give you the facts one by one. and tell you everything which has been kept in front of us one by one. So the happiness index is calculated using the 6 parameters, my dear friends, which includes GDP, which includes freedom of making life choices, which also includes your health life expectancy, social support, generosity, perception of corruption. My dear friends, it doesn't say you have to live in to make your life, happiness index better. Line number 1. Line number 2, you have to give a lavish marriage, else you are not married. According to the Indian constitution, if you get married in the Indian code, it hardly charges 500 rupees to maximum 1,000, moving from state to state. It's your personal choice. You know the word choice, that you want to spend an average of 20 lakhs to 1 crore as per the Reliance Money Control report. That it's your choice who decided to spend that money. Coming to the fact number 3, that you do not understand the statistics. Sir, we use statistics. Proponent team, we use statistics to take future decisions. If you do not, please do a fact check so that you can understand. We take statistics in future so that we can make the future inferences. That was fact number 3. Fact number 4, that the live-in relationship works fantastic. Oh, my dear, where did you study that? Now I tell you a very standard fact. India's divorce rate is the lowest in the world in developing and underdeveloping or developed countries. It's merely 1%. What does that mean? That simply means that if you have such big population, hardly out of 100, just 1% opt for divorce. Now, why? Because it has a better family plan. It has a better family belief system. This is what I meant when I said culture term. Now, how does that I have to rebuttal on your live-in relationship? Can you please forward me the statistics which says that out of 100, how many move to get settled down with the same person as they start with a live-in? Hard fact, in Bangalore, a woman filed a case against a married person who moved into live-in relationship for the alimony when he moved out after having a child with her. High Court of Karnataka said, they are not responsible if you are doing this unless they went behind the woman and said that there can be a criminal charges for you destroying a family. Live-in relationships leaves a lot of onus on you to see that how you are behaving. So it's your choice very much. Yes, you want to get pregnant, but if you have to take care of everything, what of independence? Second option, you have to get married or live in. You have to see all the person's fact check. If person is lying, how will you come to know that whether he has been lying or not? So first you have to consult someone to check whether past and history of.
Thank you so much, Rishi. Thank you so much, timer. Well, we are done with our second round, which is the interjection round. Thank you so much. Now I request the Zoom master to please send both the teams to the breakout area.
So firstly, I'll start off with this point. There was this point saying that people lie to each other in a relationship, or maybe if you are living in, they do it more frequently. But let me emphasize this point. People say that you have to make a marriage even though you have to lie 1,000. Even if you have to do 1,000 lies. So live-in relationships in general, there's been a notion that it downsides the institution of marriage, or maybe it downsides the commitment factor. But I, in my opinion, I believe this is more than myths. And in fact, a study by esteemed Harvard researcher, it proves that live-in relationships have 1.51 more chances of being successful in marriage than the ones who do not live in together. And you asked for facts, and here are the facts. Now, let me quickly run you through the various points as to why we think live-in relations are better. One is a deeper bonds. Many couples end up getting divorced simply because when they got married, when the sparks were flying, everything was going good, but later, eventually, you found out that you really got to know the other person, and everything down, boom, that's it. Marriage again is like a roller coaster ride, and you have to get adjusted to it. There's no out in between. Second, the divorce rates, or the divorce in general. In India, divorce rates are low because marriage happens between families. And if you want to get divorced, families get involved. That's the only reason why divorce rates are low in India, not the perception that, again, there's no direct correlation saying that less divorce rates means happy marriages. That's incorrect assumption to make. Lastly, see, at the end of the day, it's your life and you get to choose how you want to. Nothing can be said if the live-in is right or live-in is wrong. In fact, thinking about it makes it even worse. So if you feel you cannot handle the responsibility of marriage without living in before, and you want to really get to know the other person, form bonds with him or her, then I'd suggest that you give live-in a try. There's no moral or societal obligation to not doing it so. And if you get settled, at the end of the day, we as citizens want you to be happy. As a friend, or maybe as a neighbor, or even as a peer at your company, I wouldn't have ill intentions about you, right? So make sure that you try it. In case if it's compatible, well and good. If it's not, then still you know what to do. You're not a mature young individual who lost his way around, but rather a planned, mature individual who knows what to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Vikrant. Now I request the Zoom master to please spotlight Lahari from opposition team.
Thank you, proposition team. You have done an amazing job today, and I think you have little eased my job as the last person who is concluding our opinion. Now, this is what amazes me. If someone says no or is not in line with a liberal thought, we are condemned as religious bigots. What is this? Just because I said no, I am brainwashed by some religious person? No, that's not true. Now, let's talk about some things. Okay, studies on family science are majorly premature. You can find this, you can just Google it and you will find it right away, because there is no enough evidence. The sample size is very small and we have a wide variety of people and their perceptions which cannot be considered. So whatever the study you say, there is an exactly opposite study proving that you are wrong. That's true. Now coming to what you have said, living in relationship is a trial run before you get married. But how many of these living in relationships are ending up in the marriage with the same person? There is no facts there. We don't have any statistics on it. None of the proposition team has mentioned any statistics for this point at least. Now, our proposition team has mentioned that, one of the proposition team has mentioned that we have learned about more responsibilities financially, emotionally, but they are also said that we are always running away when the things are not working out. So that means we are running away from the responsibilities instead of staying there and learning. That happens in marriage, but not in a living relationship, because there is no obligation to stay. And now, you have mentioned that it is easy to move out of a relationship if it is not working out. Now, how many of you love your jobs? And if you don't, and how many of you have made an effort to move out of your not loving job? It is difficult, right? It's true, it is difficult. And understand this with including human emotions, how difficult it can be. The emotional dependency, the trauma that happens. It is also considered that people who come out of abusive relationships, be it live-in or marriage, they have PTSD. And if a person is in live-in and they come out with the PTSD, how are they going to cope up in another relationship or another marriage? This is not going to work out. It is going to taint that person's life forever. Now, we are not afraid of options. Options doesn't scare us. The gamification based on the human emotions is what is scaring us. If you think you can treat humans as commodities, we are doomed. I rest my case here.
One of the proposition team members said that there are no legalities in live-in relationship. Can I, under the same pretext of saying that there is a bigger picture that needs to be seen here, can I smoke cannabis? Can I sell drugs? Can I do what I think is right for myself, for the society, seeing that bigger picture? Over to you.
Please let us know from the proposition team who is going to answer the question.
I will answer.
So Padma will answer the question. Padma, you have 2 minutes of time to answer the question. Post 2 minutes, timer will force mute you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So please do not compare live-in relationship to smoking cannabis. These are entirely different. In fact, even whether you take drugs or smoke any of the weed or whatever it is, individual freedom permits you to do that. Only thing is it is harmful for your health. And it is harmful because once you are under the impact of that, you go and do all kinds of nonsense in society. That is the reason why legal protection has been given. We cannot compare that with a live-in relationship. Number one. Number two, live-in relationship has legal sanction. Today, Indian courts admit that live-in relationships are valid. And therefore, it is a recognition of the court system itself that what became very prevalent in the West over 20, 35, 30 years ago, now we are mature enough to accept that and also provide that facility to our citizens. Let's not keep controlling people saying, I will tell you whom to marry. We have to get to a stage where people make their choices as to who their partner will be. Will it be marriage or will it be a live-in? That privilege we should give to the people. Of course, whatever is needed to make sure that it works properly, like for any system, if anything has to work properly, you need certain kind of boundary conditions and you need certain kind of, norms that will emerge. And once it becomes popular and once it becomes a prevalent kind of mechanism, let's not frown upon it like, and compare it with taking drugs, etc. This is no comparison at all.
Yeah, I'd like to ask the proposing team. One sec. I think I have two audio on.
Timer, you start the timing when the debater starts.
Yeah, I'd like to ask the proposing team. We have this problem with the Western European nations where you have the institution of marriage is kind of no longer existent there in a way. And that is also probably the reason for a declining population. There's the population age is going up in Japan, or because would you not say that this is because of the family institution of family is not really existing in those countries?
Okay, thank you, Ajit. Who is going to answer from the proposition team?
I can take that up. Padma, is it all right?
Yes, Vikram. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So one thing that we have to consider here is the correlations that we're trying to make between live-in relationships, the declining population rates, and also the marriage. Now, when you are living in a relationship, we are not entirely, throwing the idea of marriage out of the loop. In fact, what we're trying to tell you is, if you're dating, any individual is going to date, or maybe most of the people in India right now in these days in the metropolitan cities with the advent of the technology and the accessibility to different resources, you're going, at the end of the day, you're still going to date and then land up. If you're going to like it, then you're going to move into a relationship. Similarly, the live-in relationship also, you're roughly going to spend around 2 to 3 years before marrying. So this, the risk of which has been presented to the population, I would say, would diminish in this aspect, because at the end of the day, you're still going to have children. And it's not as easy as the things that you see in the Western culture, that not having a marriage, or maybe not marrying, or maybe not having kids, is not that quite common in India as of now. And also the last point being, you also have to consider the population differences in Japan and also in India. We, according to most of the surveys, you might be already aware of this, but let me quickly get it to light again, that India has the highest young population across the world, and it has the highest workforce as well. So even if you see in the next 30-40 years, there is no significant risk that has been presented, even considering that it completely depletes the concept of marriage, which is not ideally the case. But even if it does, we still are on the safer side. I hope I answered the question.
Thank you, Vikrant. Okay, KK. So you have the option of asking a question to the opposition team. Please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Actually, I have this question to opposition team. Anyway, I'll change the question because I'm a Toastmaster. So to the opposition team, I See, physical intimacy is something which is very important in relationship. It drives the relationship, and nobody talks about it, nobody shares about it, but I feel it plays a prominent role. Now to the opposition team, how challenging it is to have a physical intimacy with someone whom I don't know and still enjoy the relationship compared to the live-in relationship where I know the person, I travel with them, and most importantly, I'm not forced to do anything there, where there is a pressure from family here. You understand that typically in Indian middle class families, you have to have kids after getting married by certain age, wherein living I can have whenever I want. So what is your take on this? Having physical intimacy with someone whom you don't know, and you have to start that immediately after 1 month or 2 months of marriage. And how do you enjoy it? How do you embrace it? And how do you continue doing it for years and years and years?
Thank you, KK. Who is going to answer from the opposition team? Okay, Lahari, you can please unmute yourself, and you have two minutes to answer the question. Go ahead.
Yes, that's actually an amazing question, KK, because as a girl, I think I can right away relate to that, because it is expected of us when we get married, we have to eventually have children right away. But the thing is, when we are in a living relationship, it happens organically, right? The same happens in after marriage also. You tend to know that person, and organically you grow a bond. It's not that only living relationship gives us an authority and gives us a privilege to have a protected sex or whatever it is. Even marriage gives us that option. And if I don't want to have kids in 5 years, I have to tell it to my parents that I don't want to have kids after until 5 years. If I am in a living relationship, I maybe get forced by my parents to get married. It's not that this happens only in live-in relationship or marriage. It happens with people. It's not about what kind of relationship they are in. So we have to understand that point. So as a person, it is me who is responsible to take a decision on how I want to have a physical intimacy with my partner, when to have kids, how to tell people that I don't want to have kids. So that is where the society plays a role, where they have to teach these young kids to understand them and get to that maturity where they will be able to project their opinions. Not just tell that, okay, I stay in a live-in relationship, now no one can ask me any question. It's not like that. Even in Western countries, it's same. When you're in a live-in relationship, people keep on asking you, did he propose? Did you fix a date? Did you get engaged? When are you getting married? These questions are common everywhere. It's not just for a relationship or for a region. It's for people, and people have curiosity on others' life. So that continues. So as a person, it is my responsibility to understand what I'm comfortable with and to play it out. That's all. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. Thank you, Lahari. Now, anyone who has a question for the opposition team? Okay, Akib raising his hand. Yes, go ahead, Akib.
Earlier, I also had a question for a proposition only. Now I have to go for opposition. So there is a culture like this is a extra wing of marriage wherein one boy from a family and his sister, they marry with the other two sets of people. His brother and his sister, and my brother and my sister, they get married. Cross marriages happens. So this has happened if one of my relative. So what has happened? One of the marriages were not working perfectly, and the other people were okay. But after a year, it became very humiliating, and they were not liking each other. So one of the marriages got cut off. So other one had to break it off. There were no other options. So that is one thing wherein we know we have a lot of stigma. Before going for divorce, there is a lot of procedures involved. And it's not as easy as we say that talak, 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 and talak has been done. It's not like that. So we have to go through all these phases. Now these two brothers and sisters, they are both cut off. They're not getting married, and it has become like lifetime failure for them. So how do you take this? As like, had it been for live-in relationship, They could have understand each other and then they could have married, right? So how do you take this?
Great. Thank you, Akib. I hope the debaters has got the context of your question. Who is going to answer from the opposition team? Yes, Rishi, please go ahead.
I would let, if Lahari is interested, she can go for it, or else I will take it.
You can go ahead, Rishi.
Okay. So, Akib, let's get to one case option, since you put forward a case. So let me go to the case. One, that if I'm not wrong, you are talking about, since you use the word triple talaq. I will go through the perspective of religion specific, since the question has been religion specific when it was asked. So when you say that triple talaq was pronounced, you also said there is a procedure. So you're still trying to make the settlement done. You do not want to dismantle an entire properly functional family into just one in a flash, which has been misused, and obviously any power can be misused. So that is first thing, that since you have been married, and even though in Islam, marriage, nikah is a contract, in contract there is something called alimony. So if you bifurcate a family, you still go to support the another family. That is one. Second, now this is on the basis of that specific family. If that family is willing to break a working family as well, then yes, it is a shame that we have to accept that mandate. If not, then this is where the live-in relationship, the marriages, natural marriages separate itself from the live-in. Because in live-in, you can walk out. But in case of families, families come together, sit, discuss, try to bring you on the board, to try to carry forward a family. There can be different measures here. There can be different suggestions here. But at the last, if it is not working, I do not suggest anyone to break a happy working family as well. And if that is specific to the religious belief, that if it is marriage happening between two different families, two different families with the same brothers and sisters, or the vice versa, then you have to break both the relations. At least as far as I am aware about Article 21 or Article 16, which reads life choices, which talks about the life choices and the marriages, it doesn't give you permission to take decision for someone else on your behalf. This is what we have been trying to tell.
So now we have come to the last segment of today's meeting. That is the fact checker report. We have Sai Sudhan as the fact checker for today's debate.
Thank you so much. So I had an amazing time listening to and also looking up for the facts that were presented in today's debate. Some of them were right facts, some of them were incorrect facts, some of them were used in the right way, some of them were used in the incorrect way. So I'll give my report now. First of all, I would like to commend the proposition team for using this fact where it says after 1 year of living in a relationship and after 1 year of getting married, there is a fall in the divorce rate. They could have just said that there is a fall in divorce rate because of living relationship, but they did not misuse that fact. So I would like to commend them there. And also from the opposition side, there came a fact which says 20% of young generation do not want to get married. And the source was also quoted, which is Live Mint. So that is absolutely right. From the proposition team, there came a fact which says in the Scandinavian countries where people prefer living relationship, I couldn't remember the exact words that were used, but I heard that look at their happiness index now, right? So I didn't find a fact or an evidence which directly refer live-in relationship to be a factor for happiness index. So maybe that fact could have, you could have quoted a source, or you could have been clear about what you are referring there. And there have been a lot of references about Article 21 allowing or legalizing live-in relationship. Let me clarify that fact as well. Article 21 and also the Supreme Courts or any courts in the country, they do not legalize live-in relationship. They allow live-in relationship under certain circumstances, and those are consent, maturity, and many other factors, but they do not legalize live-in relationship. So allowing and legalize are two different things with respect to law. And I also found the fact that no law allows or denies live-in relationship. So this Article 21 reference was not used in the right way by both the teams. And these were the facts that I could catch, the right and incorrect usages. And many of the arguments were either emotional or opinionated. So I would really not comment anything on that. So with respect to facts, these are the points that I have in my report. Thank you, and over to you, moderator.
Now I request all the judges to use the same link and vote, for or against the motion as part of the post debate. Well, so we have come to the result section. I commend both the teams for active participation. Now, so this is what happened before the debate. As per the voting, out of 100%, 71.4% of the judges voted for the motion, 28.6% judges voted against the motion. And after the debate happened, after the Q&A session and fact-check report, this is the post-debate. So the opposition team has won the debate. Congratulations to the opposition team.
Hello guys, my name is Anant. I'm joining this meeting first time just to get a feel like how generally it happens. I have participated in Toastmasters a couple of times early in my career, but after that I never got a chance to actually participate.
We know that debating is one of the important aspects of a society. Why debating? What is the need for debating? If you see right from our childhood, we have been rubbed on some of the opinions, and we were asked to stick to those opinions only. So when compared to other countries or some of the parts of the world, the part of the world that we are staying in is the only place where we ask very less questions. Why, how, when, what? And debate is such platform which helps people to actually think, analyze, research, and share their thoughts, articulate those opinions independently with a free mind, right? So the Hyderabad debating community is one such platform to make people or empower people to develop those skills of listening, understanding, analyzing the concepts or analyzing the opinions of others, researching and sharing their thoughts. And this particular skill of debating actually gives us the skill of standing for or against a particular social cause.
So the best part of debating is whenever you are getting a topic, you do not know whether you are going for proposition or opposition. So you prepare for both. When you prepare for both, you critically analyze it, you think about it, you do researches, and somewhere you find out like this is what the final conclusion should be. And whatever research you do, it gives a better conclusion to your thought. And if we don't think in a debate the way we are doing in debates, then we will be hinging with one point only and will be 100% biased. So debating brings all those areas, like we have to look at the other side as well, and that is one thing which is good about it.
Hello guys. So the one major difference that I find in this debate and the one that I used to have earlier, right? You can actually see the body language of your opponent when you are live and you are face to face with them, right? Whether they are like taking up the notes or whether they are. Sometimes what happens, right? Opponents indirectly go and support you with their body language. They just give some sort of a nod or something. That makes it a little bit convenient for a pretty observant debater. But in these kind of environment, right, looking across the scene becomes a little bit difficult, and the kind of effort each participant has put in to actually not only note down the point but also understand what their opponents are trying to say becomes much more challenging. And so this is one of the major differences I found in the regular debates and the one that I'm attending now.
Well, it was good. This was my first time with respect to many debates as well. I've not been a part of many. So the overall experience was good, and also the ability to communicate with a lot of people there. Because usually you walk with them for about 5 hours this week and you get to learn from them and also understand them. But overall it was good. And as one thing I really appreciate is moving the debate more towards the direction of as the fact checker Sai Sudhanayan, if I'm not mistaken, said it should be based on facts and it should be based on a proper logical arguments rather than emotion. So I think that would be a good way forward.